Tonight, clear and present danger. The dramatic evacuation operation underway at the Kabul airport. A day after explosions kill U.S. troops and scores of civilians.
We will not forgive. We will not forget. We will hunt you down and make you pay.
The Americans who remain in Afghanistan 4 days from a U.S. withdrawal deadline. And as the fall of Afghanistan presents a threat to stability in the Middle East, the new Israeli Prime Minister visits the White House for a meeting with President Biden. Now a day off schedule in the wake of the ongoing crisis. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. The scramble to lift more Americans to safety amid warnings of another attack. I'm Jenna Browder.
Good evening and welcome to Faith Nation. I'm John Jessup. Evacuation flights have resumed at Kabul International Airport after Thursday's deadly explosions that left 170 people dead.
And with only 4 days left to leave the country, the U.S. is now relying on the Taliban to secure the situation. CBN's Brody Carter joins us now as soldiers race to accomplish the mission ahead of the August 31st deadline. Brody?
John, Jenna, the White House has not provided an official tally on the number of people still needing to be rescued. An estimated 1,000 Americans remain, alongside tens of thousands of Afghan allies. It has said as we enter the retrograde period of this withdrawal, the most dangerous parts of this mission are still to come.
The national security team the president met with this morning advised the president and vice president that another terror attack in Kabul is likely. And they are taking maximum force protection measures at the Kabul airport and in the surrounding areas with our forces as a result.
In the past 24 hours, more than 300 American citizens were evacuated from Afghanistan, bringing our updated total to approximately 5,100.
With those evacuation flights resuming after Thursday's terror attacks, the Pentagon says it's now relying on the Taliban for security after losing their ability to hold down the airport's perimeter.
We believe it is their desire to continue those attacks, and we expect those attacks to continue. And we're doing everything we can to be prepared for those attacks. Those
attacks killing 13 U.S. troops and as many as 150 Afghans in a suicide bombing and terrorist gunfire. The Pentagon confirming those casualties resulting from a single suicide vest exploded near a crowded gate filled with families waiting to board evacuation flights at Kabul airport.
I bear responsibility for fundamentally all that's happened of late.
The fighting has just begun.
Thursday, ISIS-K, short for the Islamic State of Khorasan province, admitted to carrying out the attack. This group is considered the Islamic State's most feared Afghan affiliate, known for imposing the harshest form of Sharia law and executing anyone opposing. ISIS-K now fighting the Taliban for Afghan territory while posing a threat to ongoing evacuations.
We will not forgive. We will not forget. We will hunt you down and make you pay.
So far, there are no reports of collusion between the Taliban and ISIS-K forces.
89 flights total yesterday out of Kabul, totaling approximately 12,500 evacuees now safely out of Afghanistan in a 24-hour period.
With final evacuations prepared for Tuesday, America is preparing for a massive flood of refugees.
The Defense Department will continue to support the State Department in providing temporary housing, sustainment, and support inside the United States for a capacity of up to 50,000 Afghan special immigrant visa applicants, their families, and other at-risk individuals.
With U.S. forces laser-focused on rescuing Americans, lawmakers are pressed to join growing calls for the president's resignation or impeachment, led by House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy. The White House says now is not the time to play politics. A recent poll shows the president's approval rating stands at 41%. John, Jenna, back to you.
CBN's Brody Carter. Thank you, Brody. Well, here with us now, Sam Brownback, former ambassador-at-large for international religious freedom under the Trump administration. Ambassador Brownback, thank you so much for joining us on Faith Nation today. Ambassador, the crisis in Afghanistan grows more desperate by the day, even as the U.S. nears its self-imposed withdrawal deadline for all U.S. troops. Ambassador Brownback, how would you advise the Biden administration to turn things around?
Well, I think what they've got to do right now is to get everybody out that wants to get out that is in harm's way. And that's the biggest thing you've got to do right now is get that done. And so what I've been calling for is saying that if you're a religious minority in Afghanistan, we need to be granting them visa rights to be able to come to the United States because they're sitting ducks. They're going to get killed. They will be hunted down in Afghanistan, given the situation that now is taking place in that country. If you were a Muslim that accepted Jesus as Lord and Savior, if you're a Messianic Muslim, they're going to hunt you down and you're going to be killed. And we need to get those people out as well. We need to get them out either through land bridges, through special airlifts. But any religious minority right now, the Biden administration needs to provide passage for them to get out because otherwise they're going to get killed.
We're hearing horrific stories on the ground of the Taliban going door to door, threatening women, girls, and to your point, people of faith. Talk about the threat the Taliban poses to people of faith, not just Christians, but anybody who doesn't share their beliefs.
If you don't agree with them on their theology of this radical Sunni theology, and you've got to agree right with them on that. If you're outside of that boundary, you're fair game to be shot and killed. If you're a convert to Christianity, you absolutely are going to be hunted. If you're a Sikh, if you're a Shia Muslim, these all people are that are in the minority faith now to this group that's in power are threatened, and many of them likely to be killed, maimed, the women taken as forced brides to Taliban soldiers or other radical groups that are in Afghanistan. This is going to happen. We saw this genocide happen in northern Iraq when we pulled out of northern Iraq, and we shouldn't have done that. We shouldn't have done this one. But when we pulled out of there, you had a genocide against the Yazidis and the Christians in northern Iraq, and thousands of people were killed during that, and we're seeing that replayed now.
Ambassador, as you said earlier, you've called on the State Department to grant visas to Afghan religious minorities immediately. I hate to put you on the spot, but some are pointing out that you took a different approach in 2015 as governor of the great state of Kansas, signing an executive order barring state agencies from relocating Syrian refugees out of a concern that terrorists would enter the state under the guise of refugee resettlement. Ambassador, in the 30 seconds or so that we have left, what's different this time around?
Because I was asking for information at that time to resettle them, and if they had given me the information, I would have resettled them. The State Department wouldn't give me the information that I needed to have at that time. And I was saying, if you're not going to give it to me, then I'm not going to work with you. That's what we've got to have, is that information flow, and we can have it and we can do it. And that's consistent with what we should be doing. Plus, the Syrian situation wasn't that one of our making. This one is one of our making, and you're going to have a lot of these people get killed.
Ambassador Brownback, again, we so appreciate your time and your insights on this very tragic topic. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, the Capitol Hill police officer who shot and killed Ashley Babbitt, a 35-year-old woman involved in the January 6th breach of the Capitol, is speaking out. Lieutenant Michael Byrd telling NBC News Babbitt posed a threat to members of Congress. Byrd also says the fact that he was not aware of whether Babbitt was armed did not alter his decision to fire the single fatal shot.
You're told to aim for center mass. The subject was sideways, and I could not see her full motion of her hands or anything. So I guess her movement, caused the discharge to fall where it did.
An attorney for Babbitt's family says in a statement that Babbitt was, quote, not brandishing a weapon, not in close proximity to members of Congress, and was not an imminent threat of death or serious injury to anyone. Now, 7 Capitol police officers have joined in a lawsuit charging former President Trump and Stop the Steal rally organizers of inciting the Capitol riot that injured more than 140 officers on January 6th.
Well, even as Americans grapple with the fallout of COVID-19, evictions across the country could resume as early as next week. The Supreme Court Thursday rejected the Biden administration's federal moratorium on evictions. In a 6-3 majority opinion, the justices said the CDC exceeded its authority in granting the nationwide moratorium, adding that it specifically must be authorized by Congress. The court's 3 liberal justices dissented, with Judge Stephen Breyer faulting the High Court for the quick decision amid a public health crisis.
And joining us now, Ray Suarez, veteran Washington journalist. Ray, thank you for joining us on this Friday. We want to start with a story that everybody's talking about, and that is Afghanistan. Last week was bad. This week, even worse. Yesterday, 13 U.S. troops died. Our hearts certainly go out to their loved ones who are grieving today. Ray, if you have to look at this, from 30,000 feet, how do you frame what we've seen unfold?
Well, it was policy of 20 years that finally led to its logical conclusion. The United States had done a lot of things over a long time, and very few of them worked. And finally, the weight of all that came crashing down in the last 2 weeks. From the time that country was invaded with a too small force and occupied with a too small force, from the time that Osama bin Laden evaded the special operatives chasing him through the mountains of Afghanistan early on in this war, it's been one dry hole dug after another. We tried a lot of things in a lot of places in Afghanistan, setting up civil society, setting up civic institutions, setting up schools and building infrastructure, and finally training a sizable Afghan army. The fact that so many of these initiatives failed finally came to a head in these latest months.
Ray, as Jenna just mentioned prior to this interview, the lawsuit that's being brought by Capitol Police officers, about 7, against former President Trump and those involved in the January 6 riots at the Capitol. Your thoughts on this? Does it have legs?
Do I think that the then president, is ever going to be held directly responsible for January 6th? No, I don't. But there will be found in discovery, there will be found in the investigations that surround the court cases, there will be from the January 6th inquest in the House of Representatives, a lot of information that will come out that will not flatter the Trump White House and will leave us with some real hard thinking to do about our parties on Capitol Hill, who supports governing and government, and really what those people thought they were doing when they breached the Capitol on that day. If they thought they were going to stop the operation of government, the confirmation of the already certified votes of the 50 states, we got a problem in this country, and it's much bigger than Donald Trump's reputation.
This week, we saw a couple of major blows to the Biden administration from the Supreme Court. Yesterday, the Supreme Court striking down the Biden administration's eviction moratorium. Ray, was there any hope that the continuation of the eviction ban under the CDC could actually stick?
It was really a long shot that the court was going to find that the CDC had the power to continue the moratorium. When it was first asked to rule on this question, it declined the request to end the moratorium then because it gave Congress, it said, well, Congress is about to go into recess. When it comes back, it'll have some time to pass a law. Congress has done nothing. The president is not a legislature. The Supreme Court is not a legislature. The fact that too many national questions, really important national questions, end up in the court is because our national legislature is not doing its job as a national legislature. You want to do a moratorium, something that really has some serious questions embedded in it about property rights and about debt and about individual families' fates. The Congress has to get involved. That's what they're for. And this is what the court is finally saying in this majority decision.
All right, Ray Suarez, we appreciate having you on this Friday evening. Thank you.
Thanks, Ray.
Good to talk to you.
Coming up, why the crisis in Afghanistan makes President Biden's delayed meeting with the Israeli Prime Minister more important than ever.
Come home to the sounds of Southern Gospel from CBN Radio. You'll enjoy a rich Southern blend of bluegrass, classic gospel, and Southern gospel favorites like the Gaithers, the Crab Family, and bluegrass sounds like Mountain Faith. So make yourself at home with the all-new CBN Southern Gospel. Now available at cbnradio.com.
It's about the competition.
I kind of put that pressure on myself, and I think people had expectations.
It's about overcoming.
We use this phrase all the time, keep chopping, keep practicing hard.
It's about going the distance.
You know, I think as a father, it's my job, to lead, just be the best husband and father I can be.
Watch Going the Distance with Sean Brown Saturday night at 7:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Welcome back. Well, today President Biden met with Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett at the White House.
While the world is focused on Afghanistan, Israel's new leader came with another priority. CBN White House correspondent Eric Phillips has more on the first official meeting between the two. Eric.
John, Jenna, though this meeting was chiefly about the future of U.S.-Israeli relations, the two leaders could not ignore the elephant in the room, the more than dozen U.S. troops killed in those suicide bombings in Afghanistan. And the president began the meeting by empathizing with loved ones.
Losing a son, a daughter, a husband, a wife is like being sucked into a big black hole in the middle of your chest and you don't think there's any way out.
On behalf of the Israeli people, I want to extend our condolences and deep sadness for the loss of American lives in Kabul.
While the two leaders appeared friendly, they clearly have major differences between them to work out. The Iran nuclear deal tops the list. Biden plans to re-enter the agreement his predecessor, former President Trump, abandoned. Israel is against it.
Iran is the world's #1 exporter of terror, instability, and human rights violations. The first goal is to stop Iran on its regional aggression and start rolling him back into the box. And the second is to permanently keep Iran away from ever being able to break out a nuclear weapon.
But we're putting diplomacy first and seeing where that takes us. But if diplomacy fails, we're ready to turn to other options. We also are going to discuss ways to advance peace and security and prosperity for Israelis and Palestinians.
There's also a gap in how the two view Israeli-Palestinian relations, which boiled over earlier this year with military action along the Gaza Strip between Hamas and Israeli forces. Biden wants Israel to help Palestinians. Bennett wants to lower expectations. And for his part, Bennett's main agenda item was to build a bridge with the president and Democratic leadership, one that was severely damaged by his predecessor, longtime Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And in a good sign, the two leaders did pledge today to be in support of one another. The latest from the White House, Eric Phillips, CBN News.
Too often we carry baggage from our past. You know what it's like. It affects everything and everyone in our lives. It's always there, weighing us down and keeping us from achieving true happiness. But do you know God never meant for us to be trapped in the past? You can be free of your baggage. Learn how God's forgiveness leads to changed lives and new beginnings. Call the 700 Club.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Wednesday night at 8:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream, the chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities, the chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
Welcome back. A federal judge is reversing a ban by Florida Governor Ron DeSantis on school mask mandates. School districts can now impose mask requirements after a Florida district judge ruled that the governor overstepped his authority. The ruling in the Sunshine State, which now leads the nation in COVID cases, clashes with a ruling in Texas, which put a halt to a mask mandate in the city of San Antonio. Well, a surge of COVID-19 cases in Israel could mean another lockdown over the upcoming Jewish holidays.
Even with the talk of a possible third round of vaccinations, some positive news as Israel develops a treatment showing a lot of promise. CBN's Chris Mitchell explains.
With COVID-19 cases on the rise, Israeli healthcare leaders took the lead in recommending a third dose of the Pfizer vaccine.
It's working, it's safe, and it's the way to defeat this virus.
Although more than 60% of Israelis are fully vaccinated, this latest surge could lead to a fourth lockdown over the upcoming Jewish holidays.
As I said, what we're seeing in Israel right now, even though there is a surge in cases, the level of severe COVID hospitalizations and death is much lower in people who are vaccinated.
Dr. Yair Lewis, a former member of Israel's national coronavirus response, believes there could yet be another surge. Lewis says while the vaccine is important, treatments are crucial.
Obviously, developing therapeutics to treat people who have been infected is something that we should be able to actively protect people who have been infected.
So we have to have a drug as the second line of defense.
And that's the goal of Hebrew University Professor Yaakov Nachmias and his team. CBN News met him last year after they identified that fenofibrate, a drug on the market since 1975, could possibly fight the disease. Clinical trials now show it's working.
And we looked at 15 severe COVID-19 patients. These are patients that had to have oxygen. What we saw is that inflammation, essentially pneumonia, disappeared in just the first 48 hours.
COVID-19 creates an overreaction of the immune system known as a cytokine storm. Instead of fighting the lung infection, it destroys the lung tissue itself.
93%. Compared to about 25% in the general population, could go home without oxygen support in less than a week.
Nachmias says 2 clinical studies on 4 continents are also using the drug for treatment.
One of the things that makes us very excited about fenofibrate is that it has an exceptional safety record. The second thing is that it's incredibly cheap.
At Tel Aviv's Ichilov Hospital, Professor Nadir Arber continues work on an Israeli drug called XOCD24. Earlier this year, he told CBN News about his first round of trials.
And we give it by inhalation. It's very simple. So we enrolled 30 patients in the phase 1. We checked for safety, and the drug was very safe, no side effects whatsoever.
A clinical trial in several Greek hospitals has shown similar results on 90 patients. with about 80 leaving the hospital within 5 days. In the near future, he believes it will be used as an at-home therapy and potentially a platform for treating other similar ailments. Chris Mitchell, CBN News.
This is our nature as a country.
To make the world a better place.
Literally, we felt the earth shaking.
The Christian Broadcasting Network presents To Life, how Israeli volunteers are changing the world.
This film needs to be seen by everyone. I was in tears.
Now you can own the inspiring documentary To Life on DVD.
There is blood on our hands if we know and we walk away.
I'm so grateful that this film was made.
To Life can be yours for a gift of $10 or more. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
We know that every minute counts to save life.
It'll bless Israel, but it'll also bless all the friends of Israel.
Discover the untold story of how Israeli volunteers are making the world a better place. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com to get your copy today.
I am Region's first ROTC graduate student.
Finally tonight, a bittersweet moment as we congratulate one of our own on a new move, which regrettably also means we have to say goodbye.
We do. In just over 2 years, Eric Phillips has become a vital part of the CBN News team, tackling news in the field, at the White House, and on the anchor desk. From his start as our national security correspondent to covering the 2020 presidential election and asking tough questions as a White House correspondent in the briefing room, we, like you at home, have benefited from Eric's fair, balanced, and insightful reporting.
We've also gleaned from his spiritual maturity, always armed with an encouraging word, ready to pray, and his ability to make us laugh with his wit and charm. Eric, we're going to miss you a whole bunch. Anything you'd like to say before you sign off and take the helm at the anchor desk in Richmond?
Well, I just want to say how grateful I am for this opportunity. Coming to CBN was really a full circle experience for me because I had my first exposure to TV by being in the live studio audience at the 700 Club. And look where I am now at the White House for the network. I'm thankful to God for this experience, and I'm thankful to all of my coworkers for their love and support, and of course, to the viewers as well. It has been my pleasure.
Eric, go ahead, Jenna.
Oh, I was just going to say, Eric, we are so thankful for you, and yeah, bittersweet is the word. They are getting a good one there in Richmond.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Jenna. Love you both.
Eric, you're going to be sorely missed, and as our news director said earlier, the door is always open for you to come back.
Make sure you keep just keep a foot in it, because you never know. You never know what could happen in the future. So keep that foot in the door.
Well, you'll definitely always be part of the CBN News family.
Absolutely. Don't be a stranger, Eric Phillips.
All right.
All right, and that is going to do it for Faith Nation this evening and what has been a very busy news week.
Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next week.